Starfleet shuttlecraft. This is Vulcan Orbital Control. You are clear to land at the requested coordinates. Welcome to Vulcan. Please enjoy your stay.
Welcome. Do you have any? It will. Do you have any?
Captain, the ambassador has considered going to the count. The ambassador and.
Peace and long life. Do you seek knowledge of the ancestors?
If you are a true horror fan, you are probably far too familiar with the twisted world of the Lament configuration and the Cenobites put together by Clive Barker for the iconic Hellraiser franchise. The legacy of Pinhead, the pain-loving otherworldly entity, and his minions have now found another outlet, much to the excitement of the fans. Hellraiser Revival has been officially announced as a single-player, first-person survival horror game developed by Boss Team Games and Saber Interactive, and the first look trailer has just been released that shows a unique combination of sensuality, horror, and the gruesome kind of action that we have seen in the movies so far. In this video, I will dive down to the hidden details of the trailer and cover everything that you can expect from this grisly horror game. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Trailer breakdown. Why I am going gaga over the short clip. Clive Barker's Hellraiser revival trailer picks up with a quick disclaimer that is actually hilarious. It says, may contain content inappropriate for children, and immediately jumps into the most graphic and outrageous intimate sequence. I couldn't think of a more futile use of the word may. The scene then opens up into a house, and you can hear the voice of Pinhead echoing through the surroundings. A couple is going at it, and there you have it. Full frontal nudity in what looks like a rather passionate and steamy session between the two. There are several bondage tools lying around, and suddenly, the girl picks up something that looks familiar. Yes, it is the infamous puzzle box, and she happens to open it as well. In walks Pinhead and his Cenobite followers as the doors to another dimension are now opened. She is hellbound, says Pinhead, in a nice throwback to the original novel, The Hellbound Heart. And then he adds, follow her, for we have such sights to show you. Another movie reference that works just fine with the game. Suddenly, it is hooks and chains that tear apart the woman and mutilate her beyond imagination. You then get a few examples of the potential gameplay, and every second of these combat sequences with the Cenobites and other hellish creatures proves to be morbidly violent. I still cannot get over the fact that Pinhead just slits a corpse into two right from the middle, and clearly, the game is not meant for the faint-hearted. There seems to be a proper story pattern in the narrative, and nothing about the gameplay is random like a violent and mindless slasher game. Clearly, the trailer has as much sex and nudity as it has body horror, and the fans of the franchise will know that both elements are crucial for the narrative. The showstopper is Pinhead, and for the select few who don't know much about Pinhead, he is the leader of the Cenobites, and he harvests human souls to be tortured in the most sadistic ways imaginable. Here, he has been summoned after the person who is probably named Sonny, as suggested in the Some glimpses of the trailer are particularly unnerving, such as the scene where the designs of the configuration are drawn on the floor and someone is inspecting a female corpse tied up to a bed. Then there is this red rave party-like sequence that is a straight throwback to Hellraiser 3. And of course, you cannot forget the scene where a Cenobite walks through the labyrinth, or when a hand reaches within a corpse to fix something. The graphics and textures are pretty solid, and you might be in for a visually delightful gameplay if everything works out according to the plan. What do we know so far about the game narrative? Aside from the first look at the trailer, there is a detailed post on PlayStation Blog that details the events of the game. It has been revealed that the players will basically step into the shoes of Aiden, a protagonist who is navigating the dark and twisted dimension known as the Labyrinth. He can get help from an assortment of melee and ranged weapons, and of course, the mystical Genesis configuration puzzle box in order to fight the evil enemies and save his girlfriend Sonny. The goal is to escape the grip of Pinhead and his terrifying Cenobite minions. Aiden dares to infiltrate the hellish dimension of the Cenobites, which is evident from the trailer, and he presumably wants to leave with the soul of his girlfriend. It has been indicated that the game is not a direct adaptation of the films in any way, even though it draws heavily from the themes and atmosphere of the first two Hellraiser movies, which is evident from the trailer as well. The executive producer of Hellraiser Revival, Nenad Tomic, has also provided some details on the game, and it is going to be a story-driven horror game that delves into the franchise's rich mythos. In his words, we consider it a huge privilege to be able to bring the haunting cinematic experience of Hellraiser, once exclusive to the big screen, to computer and console screens. I think this is exactly the treatment that the franchise deserves, instead of a random asymmetrical horror crap that only shares the title Hellraiser with nothing from the lore. Which Cenobites are shown in the trailer. One of the things that had my attention in the quick trailer is the unique collection of Cenobites introduced in such quick time. One of them is probably Butterball, although there are some who think that it can also be the female Cenobite. We also catch a glimpse of Chatterer, and of course the mighty Pinhead steals the show with his thundering presence. Once again, the references to the earlier movies are evident from the Cenobites brought into the fold, and you can expect loads of Cenobite terror coming up. Why is Clive Barker's involvement and Doug Bradley's return so important? There is a reason why Hellraiser Revival has created so much excitement among the fans, and the secret lies with the return of two key individuals who were once responsible for the magic in the franchise. Yes, I am talking about the series creator Clive Barker and Doug Bradley, who played the role of Pinhead for the longest time. The game marks the return of both, and Clive Barker has worked closely on the project as an advisor. According to him, working on the first true Hellraiser game has been a venture deep into the recesses of my darkest imaginings. He has been quite impressed by the dedication showed by Saber and Boss Team Games, and the makers have reportedly immersed themselves in the Hellraiser universe in order to capture its essence in the game. The trailer does indicate the seductive pull of suffering and the beauty within the grotesque, themes that are all too common for the Hellraiser fans. Also, equally exciting for the fans is the fact that Doug Bradley has returned to reprise his role as Pinhead, and the thundering voice echoes throughout the trailer. This is a nostalgic throwback to the times when Doug Bradley owned the role, and after over 35 years from its initial release, Pinhead is once again ready to intimidate the audience. Is the Hellraiser game a part of a growing trend? Well, I do have to say that it is about time that we had ourselves a proper Hellraiser game. The lore of the franchise and the story elements are deep and intriguing enough, and there couldn't be a better genre than survival horror to fit a video game into this concept. This will be the first major Hellraiser game, but it is actually a part of a growing trend that we have observed in the last few years. The classic horror franchises have been adapted into video games, and we have already come across the video game adaptations of Friday the 13th, The Evil Dead, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. However, these were all asymmetrical multiplayer games, but the narrative Hellraiser wouldn't make that suitable. I think that a single-player survival horror game is the perfect way to go about it, and I am quite interested to find out how the end result looks like. What are some of the earlier works of the developers? You can actually tell a lot from the earlier works of the developers and publishers involved with Hellraiser Revival, and they have quite a remarkable list of games that they have worked in. Boss Team Games was involved with Evil Dead, the game, and also the retro-style games based on Halloween and Ash versus the Evil Dead. Meanwhile, Saber has developed and published a handful of licensed horror games, including A Quiet Place, The Road Ahead, Evil Dead, The Game, and World War Z. Aftermath. Clearly, they have enough experience under their belt to handle something like Hellraiser. And even though not every title mentioned here has been a successful video game, I expect Hellraiser Revival to rank as one of their better projects. When can we expect the game to be released? There has been no official announcement about the release of the game yet, but Saber Interactive has promised that it is closer than you think. The game is all set to be released on Xbox Series XS, PC, and PlayStation 5, and I think that you can expect a late 2025 release, or maybe it will be pushed to the next year. As for now, it is a very thrilling moment for the horror fans as Clive Barker's demented, hellish universe is preparing to open the doors one more time, and it might just boil down to an epic showdown. The game is currently in development, which means that predicting an exact time can be tricky, but surely they wouldn't keep us waiting too long. Marvelous verdict. The first look of the game is quite promising. I think we can all agree that the Hellraiser franchise stopped seeing its best days ever since Hellraiser 3, and aside from a couple of exceptions, the later movies have failed to impress. It all changed with the 2022 reboot film, which
Hey! I will.
I don't know if the Undine will listen to your message. The Undine ultimately want to keep fluidic space free from outside influence. When Catherine Janeway first encountered them in the Delta Quadrant, she promised, but the Undine only sent those agents because the Iconians fooled them into thinking we were invading fluidic space first. We were both deceived. This is a tragic series of misunderstandings that has led to wars and countless deaths. And it's all the Iconians' fault. They used the Undine to destabilize our alliances and set the stage for their invasion.
This is a real freaking embarrassment.
This is Cap.
What's the matter? That's not your tongue?
The Ambassador was an Undine? I'm afraid their infiltration of the Federation goes much deeper than we realized. Who knows what kind of havoc they could...
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
You have a new captain power available in your radio menu. Press the L2 button to show all your power. Use the left stick to navigate this radio menu. Press the L3 button to set your quick power and update the default captain power to use. Press the right trigger to activate a power directly from this radio menu.
To any ships in range, this is Dana Brott of the transport SS... To any ships in range, this is Dana Brott of the transport SS Azura. Please help. We're...
Captain, I'm concerned about the radiation on the Azura. She might have some damage to the warp core, but our sensors can't pick up enough to determine exactly what you'll find over there. I'm sure I can send you and your way team to the ship safely, but getting you back might be a problem until the Azura's critical damage is repaired. Step on the transporter pad and be ready to go, and be careful, sir.
Have you ever wondered what happened to those guys that got hanged in Sister location? What about those Springlock incidents we hear about in FNAF 3? And what about what happened to FNAF's most mysterious character, Miss Afton? In this video, I'll be answering all these questions. Kinda, along with the lore, and I say this because I think something happens in Pizzeria Simulator and we all never notice. So we get into all of my claims in a minute. I need to explain something though. Now something you may be confused. If you're new to the channel, then you can ignore this. But as for my loyal people, I'll be going away to work on a video solving everything in a specific game. Like everything. But everything needs this to be bought, and therefore it takes a lot of time. But the problem is, we're about to push him on for a video on the channel. And I just don't feel good with me putting all of that time and effort into a possible 2-hour-long video just for me to not know how it's going to do with the algorithm. And because of that, I kind of have been working on a video, my bad, so I chose to do something shorter, and that's this video. So the video is still coming, don't worry. Well, for now, I have another rant to go about. So sit back, grab some Valentine's chocolate, and wait to ask out your crush, because I'm about to tell you all about the deaths and Five Nights at Freddy's that place forgotten. Now, to kick things off, near the start of this location, we learned from ACD Guy that a problem was found in events that we used to get to the main location, and it was kind of never answered on what exactly happened to this body. And the obvious answer is that one of the animatronics killed him. But the question still remains, which one? Well, the answer is kind of simple, really. Throughout the entire game, we see these animatronics learn what they are capable of. And something that they are not capable of, according to on-screen feeds, is spinning inside a vent. All except for the mini babs. Any mini arenas, any electrobabs, and Bonnet and Bonbon. Babs are the only ones we see closely connected to the vents.
The alloys used in this
So I would say it's safer to go with them instead of the others. Adding onto it, the mini babs are the only ones we see actively going outside of the main bunker and into the elevator.
Hit in a run, I'll never let
It's only accessible via the vents where the body was found. So we know who killed it, at least we're theorizing. Now the next question is, who was it and why was it killed? For me, I don't think it matters all too much. It was probably just random maintenance worker who got unlucky, and we all know what those steps doesn't matter in this series. Only kids think. But I was joking. I'm joking. As for why, it gets a little tricky. But I may have an idea.
It is no surprise that the cowardly
Orion but maybe have other plans. And the other animatronics wants to use Michael as a suit.
Our assistance has given us a chance for glorious comeback.
Hence, the person who died in the event. So, what happened? Why was it Biden left in the event? Well, we got a few things. One, when they killed the guys, started dragging them to the sleeping room, the other maintenance guys come in and it's going to get caught. This is most likely the reason, but there may be more to it. Maybe they killed the guys so they could use them as a suit, like I just mentioned, but realized they weren't exactly ready yet. They still needed to get skipped themselves so they could all be together and actually fit inside the body. So they just ate a chip. So there's that. However, there's still more. Remember how I said the identity of the guy who died didn't matter? Well, I lied. Just remember that this video is mostly going to be all speculation. As the reason for these deaths being forgotten is because we have a limited content on it. But with that being said, it's to switch to say that the person who died in the bed was the person who crafted the event who made their babies. Maybe after he crafted it, survived against the mini babs and started to head home, that's when they attacked him, killing him in the vents and retreated back into the darkness. Moving on in Civilization. We have the Hangman in both the Lewis Gallery and the Funtime Auditorium. Now this is pretty simple. We see these guys in night 5, the night we get screwed. And one important thing we know from this night is that Ender is already on the move. I just sit behind Baby after getting that one thing John Fanath loves so much. So with that being said, there's only two possible explanations. Baby or Ender. And it's probably Ender. Like I said, it's really simple. Baby herself says she's pretending to be deactivated, and she actually has handled it for because he does think she is deactivated. But hey, maybe she just got up and deleted the cameras. But here's the thing, she's not really small enough to fit inside the fence, which would require that. So actually, guys, you know, it is small enough to fit in. That's right, Ender. Now, why did Ender kill these guys? Well, it's false information. But I think that they didn't want any witnesses for what they were going to do with Michael. So they simply got rid of him in one of the most disturbing ways Five Nights at Freddy's has ever seen. Alrighty, let's go for Sister Location. Let's go back to one of our classics, Five Nights at Freddy's. In night 4, we listened to one of the older tapes from the guy in which he says this.
What is like check the company policy and turn it into a consume? Don't. After learning of the F4 city incident at the Sister Location involving multiple and several cases of pre-launch failures, the company has named them as temporarily unfit for employees.
For sure, this we all thought that this meant there were some people who died in some Springlock suits, specifically Freddy and Bonnie, and those souls turned out to be Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. Except we got more evidence into the actual identity of Shadow Bonnie and Freddy, and kind of just completely trashed on this theory. And so we waited and waited, and lo and behold, we got nothing. As the series progressed, we didn't really hear anything about these incidents, and to this day, we are allowed to theorize about this with like one piece of evidence. Some people have theorized that this incident was the fight of 83, but that's not a Springlock incident. It's more of a robot incident, but whatever. A more plausible theory is that Fazbear Entertainment learned about Willie or the puppet stuffing the missing children into the suits and trying to stop anyone that happened. But Freddy and the gang aren't Springlock suits to begin with, as stated in FNAF movies. So now let's check out the scene. I think that end of the incidents
Attempting to get a transporter lock on Captain Brock, sir. Boosting containment. We have a captain.
Now, obviously, we are halfway into the video. I'm trying to go for 15 minutes here. Thank you for watching.
You saved my crew. I'll tell you, the Azura was a transport ship, best in the quadrant. Mostly I hauled medical supplies or farming equipment, but I had room in the cargo base for a little of everything. I have one customer who is just crazy for Tranya.
You have to buy the egg baby from the shop in the Tycoon section, and in the office you have to press the blue button that is usually green. This will start an audio recording from Henry, in which talks about William Afton, his past.
I don't save the galaxy on a regular. You saved my crew. There's thieves, pirates, and a whole lot of trouble if you ask me. Raiders have always been a danger to ships like mine, but the problem has gotten worse since the Orions allied with the Klingons. Now they think they can do anything to anyone. Someone needs to put a stop to these raids.
A lot of good stuff. He's been through a couple nights of FNAF 2, he's played through FNAF 1, he's burned down the FNAF relocation with his father's crew possessing his rights.
You saved my crew. We have been having trouble with the warp core for a few days. I was hoping I could make it to the closest starbase, but...
You want to tell me he drew the plan to finally end his father, something that he's already tried doing, might I add, and decided to go tell.
When the containment field started to collapse, I used every bit of power we had to help stabilize it. The minute I routed power from the shields to the containment field, the Orions were there. For all I know, they detected I was in trouble and were waiting for the right time to pounce.
Just based on how we know this character is. So if these other endings were not done by Michael, the only other option is they were done by other people, or other people to be exact. And I think these endings were all done before Michael came into play. I mean,
you saved my crew. I'll go back to Belarus for a few weeks, I suppose. I have enough Latin. You saved my crew.
If we are assuming that these endings happened before Michael's endings, you can say that it doesn't make sense that the rest of the business is really empty when we first start. As to even get these endings, we have to at least buy a couple of things. But I'd argue that it does make sense. That petty cash we get at the start of the game, I bet that money is from Fazbear Entertainment selling this to other people to help us with our journey.
Well done. You saved that crew just in time.
Well, I think the endings gave us a very
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
at least the insanity ending lights up the victim, goes off to get a lobotomy. And I think you can already tell what might happen. Due to two endings to make money, obviously, get a bit of a Hey guys, Blue Gamer here. Actually, it's getting hard now. I said bankruptcy and blacklisting. I am so sorry. I am too lazy to go back in and actually edit this. So just let me get it. I'm going to say bankruptcy and blacklisting. It's yeah. That's it. Basically can't do a job. No job, money, central needs, central needs, right? Bankruptcy is more or less the same thing. Well, since the guy just bankruptcy needs because it's information saying nothing to your people. That's anything. Hey, other than that, same thing. This is literally all this actual news and nothing anything wrong. Again, I say this video was made for information. So you can't say they got it, but you can also say they didn't listen to you. Now, on to the last part of the I found the answer to this happening. The answer is I believe that the organization has no appearance in the games whatsoever. Maybe the couch guy at Midnight Winners, if you believe that orange guy is really, and Mike is the runaway child. But when you think about it, that doesn't really tell us anything besides it just exists. Besides that, there's no any other mention of her. None at all. Hell, she's not even mentioned in the novels. The one series we got to know the most about Mr. Apton, Mrs. Apton's husband. You know that one theory that Miss Apton is the mastermind behind Fazbear Entertainment and the current president of FNAF? I don't believe that because the evidence behind it is just non-existent. And besides, Fazbear Entertainment is an LLC company, which doesn't even need a CEO or a mastermind. So it's safe to say that she died. But when? After the FNAF Community Games? During Pizzeria Simulator? How did she die? Did she get springlocked? Died of old age? Did she commit suicide because of William? The answer is we don't know because the evidence is just not there. She is nowhere in the games or books. There is nothing that can be said for her. I'm sorry. But I actually think that this is a good thing. Still seems to want to go back in time and explore the origins of Fazbear Entertainment, aka Secret of the Moon. And this game would be perfect to get some information on Miss Apton. She doesn't even need to be a prevalent character in the game. They could show something about how she died or something like that and finally give us some closure. So what if the answer to Miss Apton is in this game? That's what I believe. If she doesn't show up in some form in this game, then I think it's safe to say that we will never ever get any information on this woman for the rest of the franchise. And with that, the video ends. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye. Bye-bye. I'm going now. I have no other words. None at all. Grounded 2 just released, and with it comes more than just a new coat of paint for the franchise. Beyond the graphical enhancements of Unreal 5 and the insane new gameplay mechanics of taming bugs, the thing I'm most interested in is the continuation of the story of Grounded. So in this video, I'm gonna...
Do you mind? I'm going to explain everything, starting with Grounded One's story, where it ends off, and how it ultimately connects and leads into the sequel. If you like this video, stomp the like button, and let's begin. Hey. Welcome back. Okay, yeah, I think he's... Okay, time to go. The year is 1987. Family man and scientist Dr. Wendell Tully is working for an R&D company known as Omninent Practical Technologies. After multiple failed research projects, he was feeling like shit until he remembered an old project that got axed, a shrink machine that he thought to revisit. Perhaps he could get it working. So he tried, all the while being aided by his robotic acting science manager, Burgle, which is basically like Spongetron from SpongeBob. Wendell then completed the first prototype of the device, dubbed the Covalent Space Reducer Prototype, or SPACER for short. But this would come to have a disastrous effect on nearly every aspect of his life in the following months. Prototype blows up, so he tries again. But this time, it works. He tested it on a set of dice, and it shrunk the pieces of plastic down. A few months later, in the summer of 1988, Omninent finds out about Wendell's device. They ask him to show them how it works, but next month, when he presents it to them, it goes horribly wrong and fails. He's fired not long after, becoming a substitute teacher to make ends meet. But Wendell can't help himself. And the next year, he restarts development on the spacer. He first needed to figure out how to return shrunk objects back to normal, because that's pretty important. Part of the solution to this was factoring in a byproduct of the shrink process, irregular covalent particle traces, which he dubbed raw science, so we didn't have to say SNPI42Z every time. After shrinking and embiggening Burgle successfully, with only a allegedly insignificant raw science leakage detected, Wendell decides human trials should be next. Hold on a second, is that you, Radcliffe? Wendell decides to test it on himself, and boom, he does it. He becomes I am tiny. Once he embiggens himself, Bro goes and borrows some of his old stuff from Omninent to use as miniature lab modules that he sets up in the backyard for tiny research time, though said labs do not stand the test of time. All while Wendell had been working away, obsessing with his projects, his wife Trudy got increasingly upset with him. He wasn't spending enough time with the family. So when she asked him to go to the beach, Wendell was like, okay, fine, but got back to work immediately after their trip, which irritated Trudy further. Continued obsession and countless hours split between his day job and his backyard science began to wrinkle Wendell's skin rather rapidly. And to make matters worse, some of his science supplies seemed to be draining faster than expected. He theorized that Omninent could be responsible. His suspicions, though, would be proven true, as it didn't take long for Omninent researchers to use their own shrinker they made, copied off Wendell without his knowing, and further sending drunken employees into Wendell's yard to spy. While that was happening, as he knows, Wendell's research became harder for environmental reasons, such as his hedge lab becoming fully overrun by spiders, a difficult reality to offset because he didn't want to affect the natural ecosystem. By the time he evacuated the lab, he realized it turns out that the yard gas were quite bad. Omninent had sent a few scientists to reverse engineer / steal Wendell's work, a compliance officer, a lawyer to help out picking up, a former soldier to protect them, and an intern to be maintenance students. Not long after they arrived, they seemingly went their own way, with all of them inevitably meeting an unfortunate end due to either the perils of the yard wildlife or the safe bonds. Or Wendell's labs at this point are deteriorating, either from natural causes or from sabotage, but he seems surprisingly chill about it. His wife, on the other hand, is certainly not chill about the fact that Wendell is continuing to rapidly age. As she makes him go to the doctor, who says he looks in perfect health for a man 20 years his senior, she tells him to stop his experiments. Wendell is full.
They just stormed from I'm coming with you, Captain. There's too much at stake, and I know this project.
It's only one reasonable conclusion. It is the elusive fractional errors of the shrinking process which are the cause. If this means that I must sacrifice 20 years of my life, then so be it.
On Thanksgiving Day, Wendell forgets his family dinner, a breaking point, causing Trudy to give him an ultimatum: science or family. Wendell's choice would deeply disappoint. Wendell's getting pretty stressed out by this point, mildly losing it, but perhaps not losing it as much as he now surrendered
The Klingon invasion was a blow to Gorn's self-determination and identity.
Back so badly, he can make the trip That rows now, rapidly becoming a raisin and can make the trip, so he doubles down and begins experimenting on fungus in hopes of coming up with a cure. As these experiments continue, Wendell's mental state rapidly deteriorates, and he ends up reading The Last of Us in the boat. This was fucking sick. Wendell then first to the structure of the lab that was somewhat containing the fungus, but what he wasn't aware of was that the military dude from Ominent had snuck inside the facility and was subsequently caught in the blast, causing him to be permanently Wendell now a worker. In the next few months, Wendell comes to the realization that he hasn't been taking security seriously at all when it comes to his research. He speculates that while he had been in the bottom of the doing so, he hears another robot known as the Middleman to help him in his place. And research into something known as super chips, which he informs Marvel about in the case of an event where Marvel is
These kinds of raids are the Gorn's attempt to reclaim their identity through their history.
Anyone in possession of another as Wendell continues to work in his correction lab, he thinks back to how much he misses his family, before then remembering a toy that his son found, an insect with the mind of a human, which he could potentially create as a body for his consciousness to have.
We'd have helped if the Gorn had just asked. I guess one of the leaders turns out to be a shapeshifter. Damages your sense of trust.
Create the perfect insect of his mind while he's transfer his consciousness and try this be flawed up and working all that building on this expected research. There is something more about someone that is going to ravage this time, but not just one fool, but children taken by Ominent to be tested on in their flanking device led by this piece of shit director Schmidt. Anyway, let's talk about the fool of them all. I'm going to primarily just the basic of this video, because before we talk about where you come into play in Grounded 1 story, we need to mention Punishing Gray Raven. Punishing Gray Raven is a free-to-play anime-style fast-paced action RPG that released back in 2021, and since its release, the game has been adding tons of fresh new content to spice things up. Speaking of which, the latest Punishing Gray Raven's anniversary update allows players to get 1,500 event construct R&D tickets simply through logging into the game, along with tons of other things. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Nijiro is collaborating with a game called Devil May Cry 5, but against collab characters Dante, Bert, Nick, and Team, just basically and Punishing Gray Raven is the classic Devil May Cry 5 rules. To get these characters to play through the collab story, Memento gave Phasma to hit Dante for free. And the collab research prize will be
There's another research
ticket per attempt, which is normally 250 tickets, and the first 2 times you obtain Dante and Virgil, you get an additional copy of each. Plus, there's this Trial of Simulacrums event, where you can challenge this version's boss, Mirrored Virgil. Completing event missions gives Echo's Coding and Sandy Spectrum as a reward. So now, Punishing Gray Raven's name, check the link in the description. Also, Delta friends, the ways of the secret to be securely placed in the side of the thing, because the case of any game can and begin immediately enacting Manifest Destiny as you terrorize the Yard's residents by deforesting the area, building yourself a nice little cozy hideout, and dismembering and making equipment out of these poor ants. What the fuck? But hey, at least in some way you make amends for the atrocity you've committed. The residents of the Yard do not take kindly to your intrusion, and sometimes get a bit feisty. They seem to always remember somehow. Anyway, after you gear up a little bit, your first objective is to investigate a weird machine nearby and to try and embiggen yourself with it. And it works. That's the end of the game. Just kidding. It actually causes a horrible reaction, and you see an explosion in the distance, and I guess that's kind of just our next lead. Heading to the source of the explosion, you find a lab, and subsequently inside of it, a robot tipped over on the ground. Oh, hey, it's Burgle. You help him up, and he tells you in a very non-insulting way, of course, what's going on.
Shrinking can be a traumatic experience for tiny human brains.
You are in the main base of operations for the Yard, and there has been a raw science leak in the lab. But most importantly, Burgle's memory chips containing all of Wendell's project data have been damaged and lost.
This is the dig site. If we disable
different lab locations, he tries to mark them for you, but he's only able to show you one ahead. Since he had it there first, the boys that it's already been over. And so maybe don't get absolutely destroyed. Easy minutes to run. Keep ending it into the hedge lab, only to be met by force by
team remnants of precursor civilization. Maybe a relative of the
Shield power is dropping. What is going on?
Our understanding of Gorn evolution is woefully inadequate. Are they even the offspring of the Berserkers? The Gorn territorial claims aren't entirely correct, but they would displace billions of people. A diplomatic solution could help to save Gorn heritage without disrupting Federation colonies.
Install this nifty replacement using the thing and get it working. This is happening. I say goodbye to such a because it also is to reveal the location of the lab, which turns out is under the shed. Get on it and find a perfectly safe and fluffy environment. What could possibly go wrong? I mean, come on, they even have cotton candy now. This is gonna be fun. Seriously, it's going to be alright. There's not going to be any bad things that come. So once you make it through the gauntlet of hell, you find the secret lab and are confronted with some totally unnerving suggestions as to what you may soon encounter. It really turns himself into an ant.
More fluctuations! Increase the power to the shields!
And the band. The team that I found this guy moved a few times and got our ship rocked. So after coping and seating, we called it night and came back. At last, we slayed Mr. Bennett and pushed on forward to the next objective. Find Wendell Tully, whether he's still alive or dead. And at last, we find him. Oh, holy shit, he wasn't joking. But reasoning. After catching up with Wendell, he tells us that in order to become big again, we need to keep Java-Matic machine working, which is basically just a really complicated copy machine. This thing involves a wave of suspicion against these weird robo-insects. We call them wolves. We figured we could handle it no problem, so we built some basic defenses and got caught. After much deliberation and lots of information, we built some solid, strategically placed reinforcements and successfully did the defense, which allowed the embiggening cell, the thing we needed to get large again, to be fully charged up. It's at this point in the game where you're presented with a choice. If you take the embiggening cell to the weird machine back to circuit and simply leave, this triggers the bad ending. While kids are able to become big again, Wendell is still a raisin, just a much larger raisin instead of tiny. Director Schmechter takes the credit for the shrinking machine, and it's pretty much just a horrible, sad ending all around. But you don't have to settle for that, because if you're curious enough, you might just find something better that even Wendell didn't even know about. On an island to the far east of the yard, find this rather strange green head, and if you go inside of it, you find a secret lab that belongs to none other than Director Schmechter. Going inside, you are confronted with the little head in the form of a robot, at least that's acting as his avatar. And once you destroy it, you get the Omninent data disk, and that is the key to getting the good ending. Since the Omninent data disk contains the cure for Wendell's reasoning, as well as being evidence itself for Omninent's evil shit, you head back to the embiggening machine and say farewell to the tiny yard. Good ending, Omninent blames Dr. Schmechter for their absolutely abhorrent and illegal behavior, like kidnapping, despite killing teenagers. But they somehow get off the hook, at least partially, because big tech isn't that
Yeah, kids are it's so like I'm strong with fucking friends, and then it's like hold on, it's like we want the kids.
Kids are mostly able to go back to their normal lives, and Dr. Wendell himself is able to become not a raisin and live with his family once again. All is well, a lovely, wholesome end. Right? Well, not now. Enter the game that you've probably been waiting for, Grounded 2. fast forward 2 years. The kids are in high school now, and it is the day of the 2-year anniversary since you guys returned from Wendell's yard. Turns out the good ending was canon. The allegedly formerly evil Omninent, which obviously is still just evil Omninent, appears to be back to their old tricks again, but with a new face to represent them, Sloan.
This is Sloan Ronan speaking. Yes, affirming yourself. Omninent spokesperson, Chief Strategy Officer, and Lieutenant.
As is the 2-year anniversary of the kids returning to normal, Omninent set up a commencement ceremony to honor the kids, Wendell, and Virgil at the local Brook Hollow Park, building a statue in their name. However, suddenly during the ceremony, an explosion was set off.
She is the epitome of evil.
Breaking news. There is an explosion.
You are living in affairs you do not understand.
The 2-year anniversary.
The park was evacuated, and footage from directly after the explosion showed a disgruntled, beret-wearing Wendell spazzing out before ripping off Virgil's little robot head. What the hell is going on? Wake up in a lab. After stepping outside their initial room, they look out the window, and it turns out they're miniaturized again. And along with the transportation, they've got some kind of amnesia, similar to the first time they ever got in trouble. Apparently, they didn't even really remember much of the ceremony, since the kids are extremely
If the archaeological sites in the Kasei system really are from a...
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Which Max then suggests is the whole reason they're shrunk again, to save Virgil. And hey, fair enough, because in round 1's ending, we learned that Virgil became very good friends with the kids, acting as their science men. Once the kids find the pneumatic transit system, ETS, facilities, they head on down to the base level and grab a piece of technology. One you may be familiar with, the Scan 2K, this upgraded Fallout window, and is releasing to release on the games, and so you can now access the god-awful user interface. But don't worry, they will most definitely update the UI around.
Admiral Quinn says you're the right...
As you explore this level, tries to follow the here across the park and in the infrastructure. This revelation made obvious as you find realizing the infrastructure as seeing this slow guy in the facility. You eventually come across a lot of just welcome and itself. Captured by some crazy, very and are tasked with heading to a nearby ranger as close for finding rather helpful. This is where their endeavors stop and survive. Once you have the facility, find the bomb finding a device that can let you harness all kinds of things. Survey the way it works with the system for survival games, including the program and the some users are called look up in space. This children brand new until they find their first turbo optic device, which unlocks the Ranger Station.
Did we advance past the DVD player? No, we got CD discs.
CD discs. Right. This thing allows you to access the science shop, upgrade your Omni